Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. The Natrona County Parks Advisory Board on this day, Thursday, September 14th, 2023. Could I have a roll call? We'll start with Jim.
Jim Miller, here.
Doug Irvin. Doug Irvin.
Cordell Wistison.
Michael Brown.
And on the phone, we have Crystal Bratvold.
Crystal Bratvold.
Yep, okay. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America.
Of America.
To the republic for which it stands.
For which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yep. Okay, next item on the agenda is the approval of the August minutes. Do I have a motion with regards to the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the August meeting minutes, right?
Yep. And do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we'll mark those as approved. Then we're on to reports. Michael.
All right, the Mountain Parks update, the Casper Mountain Trail Center, the demolition that's scheduled for this fall has started. The temporary lodge building was removed from the site so that they can demolition the foundation. It is currently located at Montana Shed Yard on West Yellowstone. It is in the publicsurplus.com auction until, I believe, early October with a minimum bid of $35,000 on that. They've dropped quite a few trees that they're hauling out. Currently, the parking lot is closed. The trails into the lodge area are closed at this time. Plans are to have the parking lot open for the winter season, so recreationalists and high school teams can utilize that parking lot during the winter. So we'll be figuring out how the trails will tie into the parking lot after demolition's done. There'll be some material staged up there throughout the winter, so we'll coordinate and cordon that off appropriately. The bridle trail, the Wyoming Conservation Corps has completed their work. I have yet to get time to hike the trail again and document what they did. I have not received their final document of work completed. They did rehab the benches at the waterfall. They built stairs on the west side up through the trail to improve that. They improved the creek crossings, and they fell quite a few standing dead trees that had the potential to fall on the trail. So they got quite a bit of work in, I think, 7 days.
Did they give you a summary of that?
I have not received the summary yet, so I'm waiting on that. So as soon as I receive that, I'll email it to the Parks Board. The staff on the mountain are beginning prep for winter. The groomers have been serviced and maintained, and they're ready to go as soon as the snow falls enough to start grooming. Winter trail maintenance is starting to begin, trying to do some cleanup, rocks and trees and limbs that get in the way of grooming. And camping's kind of winding down up there with the colder weather. We don't have as many reservations as we did. I think normally we try to close that in October. I think we have 2 or 3 reservations that kind of slipped past us before we shut it down that are in early October. So we're gonna keep those reservations and let them use it, because unless the snow gets deep soon, I think it'll be okay. Pathfinder Alcova update. The Pathfinder campground improvements are complete. The documents for closing of the project, the advertisement of that, the lien waivers, all of that standard documentation's been sent out and should be completed here in the next 2 weeks, I believe. So the dive-based shelter is fully enclosed. We can lock it if we want. Currently, we're keeping it open, but we have doors and shutters on there, so the hog derby should really enjoy that because it'll be a lot easier to keep it warm in there in January. Alcova, the Parks Department's looking at possibly adding a campground to the reservation system, the west side campground at Alcova. A couple of reasons for that. We have not done improvements, but we're looking at post and cabling it, signing it this winter. The biggest reason for that one to go on the reservation is conflicts. We've had quite a few conflicts and complaints, people staying too long, people taking my favorite spot, so it seems like it might be a good time to implement the reservation system. So if you want your spot, you can reserve it. That's not a definite yet. Got to check the budget, see if we have the budget and the manpower to implement that. But so that would leave Fremont and Cottonwood as first come, first serve at Alcova. But yeah, I think it would alleviate some of the conflicts and complaints that we're getting at West Side. Also at Alcova, I'm in the final part of preparing a request for proposal for a water and sewer assessment of our water and sewer systems in the Alcova trailers, boat club, ski club, and marina. That'll include a design for those systems as well. They're aged, they're past their usefulness due to the amount of leaks that we repair every spring and some of the issues we have with the sewer. We had to clear one line and there was a pipe drilled through it. The roots have basically taken over a lot of the main and drainages from the trailers, the sewer drainages, so it's time to really look at that and see how much that's going to cost to implement replacements. Also preparing another request for proposal for an environmental assessment on the cabin area at Alcova. This is due to implementing a moratorium back in March on any new wells and septics. The reason for the moratorium is several discussions with the Bureau of Rec and the DEQ and the Health Department. The congestion of the water wells in that area may push that into what they call a UIC permit, which is an underground injection control. Due to those not actually being subdivided lots, they are one parcel of the Bureau of Rec, and that many wells within that area. So we really need to have an assessment done to determine if any more wells can be drilled, if wells need to be shared, if any more septic systems can be implemented in those small, tight acreages. A lot of these cabin areas are pretty small. The lots are pretty small for the 100 cabins. So that's going to provide a guide as to what can be built there in the future for wells and septic systems. This has basically come down from the Bureau of Rec on this. So Parks is in agreement that it does need to be analyzed and assessed and figure out what can be done and what not. So my staff at the lake, we have water shut off for the trailers and the clubs, and the marina is shut off right now due to the fire. For October 16th, this is weather dependent. If we start getting hard freezes, we may conduct this shutdown sooner. We will notify all the trailer owners and club operators if that date changes. And the lot permits, it says the season's till October 15th. I do get complaints when we shut down the water early, but to prevent major breakage, we kind of have to do that. And we are currently cleaning up the maintenance shop from the flash flood. We had water come into our office area. We've shampooed those carpets. Tomorrow they are removing a bunch of our storage materials in a cold storage, and we'll be removing 4 to 8 inches of mud that's inside that building. What happened is we had an isolated flash flood up the country, and it did plug the 2 culverts that go into the boat trailer storage. They're not completely plugged. You can still see daylight through them, but some people have said, well, they've been plugged before. Those had been cleared, always cleared, but when those plugged, it ended up damming the water up, bringing it up over the top and running it straight into the maintenance. So it also put some mud and debris on about 12 trailer lots. Those trailer permittees have cleared that off. We went around and told them, put it out in the road and we'll pick up the muck from that. There's some fencing that needs to be repaired as well, but there's a lot of drainage maintenance needs to be out there done, and that'll be coordinated with Road and Bridge when Road and Bridge has the time to do that. So, but to remove those culverts at this time basically prevents anybody from getting their boat trailer and removing their boat from their docks. So until all those trailers are gone, we will not be doing any work on those culverts. So hopefully the big rainstorms are done. So that's the quick summary of what's going on in parks for the last month.
Thank you, Michael. Is there any board questions for Michael?
The furniture in the temporary lodge, was it been stored someplace?
So currently it's located in our maintenance building on the mountain. I'm trying to find a longer term storage area where it won't get covered in dust and grime. It may be relocated into Road and Bridge Parks office. We're looking to see if there's space there for that. But we're saving that furniture so that it can go into the new building when it's
Great.
complete.
Cordell or Crystal, any questions or comments for Michael?
I have none.
Not at this time.
Okay. Dave, do you have any commissioner comments or questions for the board or Michael? On the record.
I guess the biggest thing, and Michael covered it a lot, unfortunately, this year, we have been deluged with natural disasters throughout the county and throughout the state. This last example of this flash flood that hit out there at the marina area, there's been a lot of questions about stuff, and Michael covered that. As far as the culverts go, we're working to get that covered, and I do appreciate that. But you didn't really touch on the ski club and how bad it got hit, because it got hammered really hard. So did the boat club down there, as far as the amount of debris that actually got down into the reservoir. And there's areas that we may have to look at and work with the Bureau of Reclamation once the water levels go down to actually clear some of that out and figure out how to do that, get that taken care of so that people can actually use their slips again because of the amount of debris that was in some of those areas. So that was, I know Michael's got that on the radar, and
Yeah, and I can expand on that a little bit. So what's required, the marina will be submitting a application for dredging of their boat slips. That requires Army Corps of Engineers to approve. they typically get approved. The ski club's the same way. As most of you know, I'm a member of the ski club. I actually went out Sunday night because I was told about the flash flood. I had probably anywhere from 6 to 10 inches of mud at my spot, which was the extent of it, but the entire drainage that was affected at the ski club is no longer drainage. And that's on, after reviewing everything, that's on the Casper Water Ski Club to actually maintain that drainage as part of their lot permit. So they'll be excavating material out of there. The culverts that were in there have been plugged from a previous event 2 years ago. Road and Bridge tried to clear them and could not, so there'll be discussion about the ski club putting in possibly a low water crossing, so we don't have to worry about culverts being plugged and whatnot through there. But there's quite a bit of material in there. My little patio took me 10 wheelbarrows to get it cleaned out, but I wasn't hit. After me, the other trailers weren't hit, but the ones between me and the drainage, the 4 or 5, they were hit worse than I was because I was on the kind of higher ground in the last of it. But they'll need to dredge out their cove, so they'll be filing an application with the Bureau of Rec and Army Corps of Engineers, which obviously any construction permits, dredging permits that need to be approved by the Bureau of Rec have to go through my office first, so they're not directly to the Bureau of Rec, but we'll be working on that. And like I said, Road and Bridge needs to clear out their culvert underneath the road, which is their responsibility there, and the drainage by the full hookup campground through the marina. They'll be managing that. That's part of their infrastructure there. So, yeah, so there's gonna be a lot of material being moved this winter out there.
So, then right along with that, how is our bid process going with the Nordic Lodge, and where can people see that and stuff like that, if you want to give them a little bit of information?
Yeah, I mentioned that a little bit.
Yeah, I know you did.
Yeah.
There's a lot of questions that a lot of people have questions about that, so I'd just like for us to expound a little bit more on that so that they know where to go and look and where we're at right now, so.
So you can view the building at Montana Sheds, which are located out on West Yellowstone. It's in their yard. They were the ones that hauled it down for parks, and they're allowing us to store it on their lot rent-free since we purchased the building from them. The minimum bid was determined to be $35,000 by the Board of County Commissioners with a auction time of 4 weeks, which gets us into early October. Right now, I think there's one bid on the publicsurplus.com for the minimum. We've had a few questions, did it come down in one unit? Is it wired and plumbed? What's the weight? What's the overall height? The building's 14 by 44 feet. From ground to peak is, I think, 13.6, and it weighs approximately 19,000 pounds. So it's a pretty solid structure. And then, whoever wins the auction, they can coordinate with Montana Sheds. They have equipment that can move it, or they can figure out, how they want to put it on a trailer or whatever, when it's theirs. So, but yeah, it moved out of there pretty easily. A lot of discussion about leaving it on a mountain, but with potential winter that I see coming and other things, I thought it'd be best to get it down and get it into somewhat of a secured location so that it's not just out there in the open. As we all know, vandalism does happen on the mountain on a somewhat regular basis. So, yeah, that's that answer all your questions?
It does, and I just want to reiterate that if people would like to see it, they can make arrangements so they can go out there and do a walkthrough at Montana sheds and look at it and see what it really is, see what it has. And that's another reason why I think it was a really good idea to take it down there, was to make sure that it's open to the general public so people could go see it at their leisure and not try to make arrangements with the Parks Department, as far as showing stuff like that, because that could have turned into a full-time job all by itself.
Great.
You want to fill them in a little bit on Hellsap Acres or where we're at on that? too?
Oh, yeah. When I wrote this agenda, I overlooked a few things. So Hell's Half Acre has been on my radar for a little bit, and Visit Casper, specifically Amanda Sewell there, has taken the reins to apply for grants to improve Hell's Half Acre. And I've spoke to you guys about it a little bit in the past, but we went before the Board of County Commissioners requesting a letter of support. The chairman did grant that, so we'll be getting a letter of support there. They've received a couple from different tourism groups. And in addition to that, NPR contacted me because they wanted to do like a 5-minute web video about Hell's Half Acre. So they're going to be out there probably in October for a couple of days, checking it out and basically providing some of the history of it. I gave them some insight to maybe talk with the Tate Museum and with Kelly Estes, who is very familiar with the filming that happened down there. So we're on our way there. The grant application's for about $198,000 with plans that Parks and possibly Road and Bridge will provide in-kind services for whatever match is required. I'm hoping to get gravel from Road and Bridge. We've got some fencing that my staff can do, improvements to the shelters that can be done. The purchase of picnic tables and that. So I think we're on a good track. I'm not real sure where the outdoor rec department is with their grant application, but that's the first stop. And then Amanda's got a few other places that she's going to probably apply for grants with this.
Nice.
And I know you touched on WCC as far as what they got accomplished a little bit, but can you go into a little bit more detail on that, just for the general public and for the board members, so that everybody knows what we got accomplished and how much bang for the buck we actually got for those guys?
So the crew of 8 cost the county $15,000 for, I think they were here for 8 days. I think they worked 7. I'm not exactly sure what all they got done. They got a lot done. Like I said, they removed several standing dead trees for us. They improved the Upper Creek crossing. They improved the creek crossing right above the falls. And then they did a lot of stair work over on the west side, as well as they removed a lot of rock from the 2 benches right there by the waterfalls. And they built a retaining wall to hopefully hold some of that slide talus from coming down. And then they reinforced a footer on another bench that sets down along the creek below the falls. That footer was almost completely exposed from the spring runoff, and so they reinforced that with rock so that it's not going to wash out. But yeah, I have yet to get up there, and I have not received their complete report as to what they've all done. But they were a good crew. I think they learned a lot on this job. Joe helped them out quite a bit. Austin Burgess with Central Wyoming Trails helped them out one day. So I think they got a pretty good education out of it. And then part of the requirement with Wyoming Conservation Corps is you do an educational, informative type experience with them. And so Joe and I took them over to Crimson Dawn. And we walked through all the shrines, and we opened up the museum because it was closed that day, but we opened that up and gave them a brief history of that, and they seemed to really enjoy that. So, plus it was close, so we didn't have to take them off the mountain for too long, because they were pretty much wore out by the time we got over there to do that.
Maybe when we get that summary report, is that something we could maybe post on the website just so the public could see?
Yeah.
It might be something we could share.
Okay, now I'll be on the hot seat. Have you guys got any questions for me?
I don't have any question for the commissioners or Dave in particular. One thing I wanted to ask Michael was, could you remind us what the current timeline is looking like for the Trail Center, for what we expect to happen before the winter and then next year?
Yeah, before I get to that, one more thing on Rotary Park. September 12th, 2 days ago, Rotary went up and did quite a bit of vegetative trimming on some of the trails, because with all the moisture this year, we had immense growth. And so they went and had a work party up there, and they cleaned out a bunch of, trimmed it back. I think it's mostly in the lower areas, but they did that. So I'd like to thank the Rotary Club for doing that and helping us out with this park.
Yes, and that did make a big difference, because I went there the week before, and it was almost so overgrown that you couldn't tell there was a trail in the lower sections, and it's all cleared out now, so that's a big thank you to the Rotary Club.
So the basic timeline for the Casper Mountain Trail Center, like I said, right now they're cutting down the trees within the construction limits or project limits, and they'll be demolishing in the old foundation and concrete pad. And then once they get that, I believe they're going to excavate the new footprint for the new foundation. And the geotech report requires that they wait that for 30 days. So their plan is they're going to bring in base or the engineered fill and basically put that in place throughout the winter. That'll give them, and that cuts out 30 days this spring.
Yeah.
One of their subcontractors may stage some piping material for the water line and drainage and some of that also up there. And they may stage some of the gravel for the lot as well. This is to just try and save on the costs as everything keeps going up, as one thing. Another reason for it is with the Mountain Road going under construction next year, and we don't quite know the schedule, the heavier loads that we can get in and get done now helps with planning with that, because we'll have to coordinate cement trucks and whatnot with their project as to when we can get them in through the traffic control and the delays and whatnot. So, so they're trying to do as much of that as they can. We're finalizing a few minor clarifications with the drawings right now. The pre-engineered metal building will be ordered at some time, possibly it may be ordered now, but not built till the spring and not delivered until they need it. So they're saving time in that manner as well. So there will be expenditures that'll be coming through that we'll process on that through the architect. And then as the spring, as everything thaws out, hopefully the snow doesn't stay too long, they will be going full bore. Expected finish date, turnover date of the building to the county is January of '25. Now, if everything goes well, it may be sooner than that. Some of the other things that they'll be ordering early, there's some electrical components that have a very long lead time, and so they may be purchasing some of those now and storing them until they need them in the summer of '24. So we're trying to get everything done, and take some of the lag time out of some of these objects. The other thing that the county is doing is once the trees are all done and gone, we are going to provide temporary power. We have an electrician on board that's going to run temporary power over to the stadium area to be able to have power to those buildings. And the biggest reason for that is Natrona County High School is hosting State Nordic this year. So they've requested that. I've looked at it. It's not terribly expensive to do this, and with the contribution from the school district, I kind of felt like this is a good thing so we have that relationship in place.
Question then with that, is there any availability of the blind camp across the way to help out with state, or is that all on the school district?
I would talk with Mr. Miller over there, and he could probably get you in touch with some of the appropriate folks to see, because they're always, parents volunteer for races and everything, so, yeah, I'm sure there's ways that the Lions Camp could help with state or even any other events. Middle school races are another item that, they're usually short on volunteers, so, yeah, I would talk with Jim, and he's probably got the phone numbers in the speed dial as to who to talk to.
The trees that are being torn down or cut down in the parking lot, are they being utilized by someone, or?
So, the subcontractor at Caspar has recycled materials. Pete Peterson's the one doing the demolition. He's got W, who's a logger on the mountain, on board, and he's taking the timber. My staff and I looked at a lot of that timber to see if it'd be good for barriers or buck rail fence, but most of it's too large a diameter for what we're looking for, so, yeah.
I haven't been up there in a week or two, I guess 10 days. The trees in front of the lodge that were there, are they all going to be cut down, or how is that being?
Yep, they're all going away for the site plan and the parking. So the parking will actually expand. The current parking lot will actually expand across the, what you might call the walkway from the parking lot into the lodge area. So it's going to expand closer to that, and then it's a pretty good sized building, and to be able to maintain the walkways and provide, so off to the left of the lodge would be where you'd probably put your skis on and take off, so that's all going to be kind of a groomed open area there as well. There will be some trees between the parking lot and the trail as you go north on Bishop's there. But yeah, there's quite a few trees going out, and even behind the lodge where the power pole was and the pellet storage, that goes quite a ways back too. And the reason for that is to provide a trail, and we plan on harvesting the snow off the roof. And so there's an area that we'll have blocked off so people don't get sloughed by a snow pile. But our equipment needs a minimum of 60 feet to back drag that off of the building, so that we don't, because you can't just groom right up along the building, because you're going to end up pushing it up into the windows, so we have to back drag that out of there. And so we have to have a minimum of 60 feet from the back side of the building there. So yeah, it's going to look a lot different.
So, with the electricity being temporary out of order for a bit, what does that do with the trail system lighting?
So the lighted loop's on a separate meter and circuit, which is over by Struby, and we've asked them to we may have to run a lead, trench and run a lead if they damage it, but they're gonna stay where they are this year. And then when the full construction work happens, the lights that are at the front of the lodge area, they're gonna be relocated to the back, so that's all planned out.
So there must be a fairly big culvert that's gonna come down in front of that lodge right now.
Yeah, I don't recall the size, but it actually goes from the mountain road all the way over to the channel that goes down to Skunk Hollow. So, yeah. And there's a French drain around the lodge building and some other drainage features.
So that's why those trees have to come out then, or another reason why.
That and the parking lot, yeah, yeah. So,
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I don't have any.
Crystal, anything from you?
The only thing I have, it's not a question, it's just a comment about Hell's Half Acre. And that was 2 weekends ago. It was Labor Day weekend, but I had family in town and we were on our way to Surbat and we stopped. And in the 20 minutes that we were there was 4 different vehicles and only one of them was from Wyoming. They all stopped. 2 little boys crawled underneath the fence. But it kind of did open my eyes to, I know at one point we were talking about the distance it is from Casper, but on the other side of it, I didn't realize what a draw it is to folks if they know it's there. And so that was really the only comment. So sorry I couldn't come tonight.
We're glad you're on the phone with us, Crystal.
Thank you.
Anything else, Commissioner North?
No, the only thing I wanted to add is that, we've been kind of in a holding pattern with a lot of our park stuff for a long time, and I'm really happy to see that we're finally moving forward on several of these projects and getting some stuff accomplished. Hell's Half Acre has sat vacant for about 18 years, if I remember right, pretty close. And, it's isolated. And it's a long way for a lot of people from Casper to go out there, but because of where it is, right on that main road, we do have an opportunity to kind of show off some unique property that Natrona County has to tourists that are coming through, and it doesn't take very long to pull off the side and walk down in there if you want to, take a break, and come back out. And see some different topography that most people won't ever see. And I think that's something that we've been missing for a long time. That's just one item. We all talk about the mountain, we all talk about the lakes and stuff like that because so many of us utilize those that are residents here. But I think it's important that we also talk about other items that and opportunities that people have, that are coming through our county. Even if they're not staying very long, that kind of stuff kind of adds to it. And I think it's good that we're finally doing something with that. But that doesn't diminish from what we're doing up on the mountain, that we're looking at different things, that we're getting things taken care of. Sounds like we're going to have another relatively rough winter, according to all the forecasts that I'm hearing. And I just hope it's not quite as severe as the one last year. I'd rather it start a little earlier and not be quite as brutal as it goes through the winter. So, but we will see. None of us are in control of that. And so we'll take what we get and live with it. So.
Thank you, Commissioner North. And do we have any public comments? Nope. Okay, then do I have a motion to close out the meeting?
A motion we
So
close.
moved.
Okay.